A 93-year-old Korean War veteran walks into Judge Caprio's courtroom, carrying a metal box he has protected for 70 years. When he reveals what's inside, the judge does something unprecedented in American courtroom history. Welcome back to Mercy Stories, where real people meet real justice in ways that remind us of our shared humanity. Before we dive into this incredible story about honor, memory, and the forgotten war that shaped a generation, tell me in the comments, do you know a Korean War veteran? Their stories deserve to be remembered. Hit that subscribe button, because what you're about to witness will restore your faith in the power of keeping promises. Providence Municipal Court. Tuesday morning, November 2024, Judge Frank Caprio sits behind his bench, reviewing the day's docket. At 88 years old, he's seen thousands of cases, heard every excuse imaginable, and witnessed the full spectrum of human nature. But nothing could prepare him for what's about to walk through those courtroom doors. The morning proceeds with its typical rhythm: parking violations, minor traffic infractions, the usual parade of Providence residents navigating their way through the legal system. Judge Caprio handles each case with his characteristic blend of wisdom, humor, and genuine care. Then comes case number 38, a simple jaywalking citation. The courtroom door opens slowly, and something shifts in the air. William Bill Chen walks through the entrance. At 93 years old, he moves with deliberate care, using a wooden cane worn smooth by decades of use. His posture remains military straight, despite his age. Shoulders back, chin up. But what immediately captures everyone's attention isn't Bill himself. It's the metal ammunition box he carries in his free hand. Olive drab, military issue, dented and scarred by 7 decades, the kind soldiers used to store critical supplies during wartime. He cradles it with both reverence and fierce protectiveness, as if it contains something infinitely more precious than gold. "State your name for the record," Judge Caprio says, his voice instinctively gentler as he notices Bill's advanced age and military bearing. "William Chen, Your Honor. United States Army, 7th Infantry Division, Korean War." His voice carries surprising strength, the kind of authority that never fully leaves a soldier. Judge Caprio's pen stops moving completely. The 7th Infantry Division, Korea. The frozen chosen. The brutal winter of 1950, when temperatures dropped to 35 below zero, and American soldiers fought against overwhelming Chinese forces while their weapons froze in their hands. "Mr. Chen, what brings you before the court today?" The prosecutor stands, shuffling papers. "Your Honor, Mr. Chen was cited for jaywalking on Westminster Street. The officer's report indicates he crossed against the signal at a major intersection during rush hour traffic." Judge Caprio studies Bill carefully. A 93-year-old man doesn't jaywalk recklessly without reason. "In that box, there's a story there. Mr. Chen, can you explain what happened?" Bill shifts his weight, his weathered hands gripping both his cane and the metal box tighter. "Your Honor, I was trying to reach the Veterans Memorial before the park closed for winter maintenance. I've made this trip every single week for the past 70 years. I'm afraid I didn't notice the signal had changed until the officer stopped me." 70 years. Judge Caprio leans forward. "Every week for 70 years. Yes, sir. Every Tuesday morning at exactly 9 a.m. rain or shine, heat or snow. I made a promise in 1953, and I've never broken it." The courtroom grows quiet. People sense they're about to witness something significant. Judge Caprio gestures toward the metal box. "Mr. Chen, I notice you're carrying something that appears quite important to you. Would you mind telling us what's in that box?" Bill's entire demeanor changes. His grip on the box becomes even more protective. His eyes, which had been calm and respectful, suddenly fill with pain and fierce determination. "Your Honor, this box contains..." His voice cracks slightly. "This box contains the reason I've crossed that street 3,640 times in the past 70 years." Judge Caprio does what he always does when he senses a deeper story. He steps down from his bench and walks around to stand beside Bill, eliminating the formal distance between judge and defendant. It's his signature move, the gesture that has made millions of people love him. In this moment, he's not a judge processing a citation. He's a fellow human being trying to understand another person's story. "Bill," Judge Caprio says softly, using his first name with gentle familiarity. "I have a feeling that box contains more than just objects. Would you be willing to share its contents with us? Bill looks around the courtroom at the dozens of people watching. His hand shakes slightly, not from age, but from emotion. Your Honor, people might think I'm just a crazy old man when they see what's in here. They might think the war broke something in my mind. Bill, I've been on this bench for over 30 years. I've learned that the things we carry often define who we are. Whatever's in that box matters deeply to you, and that means it deserves our respect. Bill takes a deep breath that seems to come from the depths of his soul. Slowly, with trembling hands, he sets the box on the defense table and opens the lid. What the courtroom sees next stops everyone cold. The box is filled with military dog tags, hundreds of them. They're not organized randomly. Each one is carefully wrapped in tissue paper, labeled with a handwritten note, and arranged with meticulous care. But that's not what makes this moment unforgettable. As Bill carefully lifts out the first dog tag, Judge Caprio's eyes widen in amazement. Each tag is accompanied by a small photograph, a letter, and what appears to be a detailed handwritten note. Your Honor, Bill says, his voice beginning to shake. These are the dog tags of 127 soldiers from my unit who didn't make it home from Korea. I've been carrying them, protecting them, and trying to return them to their families for 70 years. The courtroom falls into absolute silence. Bill begins lifting out dog tags one by one, each movement deliberate and reverent. This is Private First Class James Morrison from Iowa. He was 19 years old when he froze to death at the Chosin Reservoir. Before he died, he gave me his dog tags and made me promise to find his family and tell them he loved them. Judge Caprio moves closer. As he does, Bill continues. This is Corporal David Kim from California. He saved 6 men during a Chinese assault before he was killed. His last words were, "Tell my parents I died doing something that mattered." Bill moves to another set of tags. This is Sergeant Robert Williams from Texas. He was supposed to go home the week he died. He gave me these and asked me to tell his wife that he'd been dreaming about her face every night. As Bill continues sharing story after story, people throughout the courtroom begin to cry. These aren't just old military dog tags. They're a mobile memorial, a sacred trust carried by a man who has refused to let his brothers in arms be forgotten. Even as the world moved on, and Korea became known as the Forgotten War, Your Honor, Bill says, his voice thick with emotion. I know people see an old man jaywalking with a box, but these boys, they deserve to be remembered. Their families deserve closure. Some of them never even got official notification that their sons died. The military lost records. Families moved. Letters got lost. Judge Caprio's eyes fill with tears as the full scope of Bill's 70-year commitment becomes clear. Bill, how many families have you found over the years? 83, Your Honor. It's taken decades. Sometimes I've spent years tracking down a single family. I've traveled to 31 states, written thousands of letters, searched through old phone books and church records. When I find a family, I give them their son's dog tags, tell them his story, share what I remember about him. But Bill isn't finished. He reaches deeper into the box and pulls out a worn leather journal. This is their book, Your Honor. Every soldier from my unit who didn't come home, I've written down everything I can remember, their jokes, their dreams, their last words, the circumstances of their deaths. I add to it whenever I learn something new. Whenever I find another family member who shares a memory, Judge Caprio takes the journal with reverent hands and begins reading. His expression transforms from amazement to something approaching awe. The entries are meticulous. Siege fallen soldier has pages dedicated to their life, their service, their death, and Bill's ongoing efforts to reach their families. But then Judge Caprio reads something that stops him completely. Bill, according to this journal, you've been doing this work. He looks up, his voice filled with disbelief, while homeless for the past 12 years. Bill nods slowly. Yes, Your Honor. I lost my apartment when my pension wasn't enough to cover rent increases, but I couldn't abandon my mission. These boys trusted me. I sleep in shelters, sometimes on benches, but I keep the box safe. It's the most important thing I own. The courtroom is stunned into silence. This 93-year-old man has been homeless for over a decade, yet he's continued his sacred mission of returning dog tags and honoring the memory of fallen soldiers. Your Honor, Bill says, his voice cracking with emotion. They would have done it for me. That simple statement 5. Words that capture the entire essence of military brotherhood breaks. Something opened in Judge Caprio's heart. The judge walks back to his bench but doesn't sit down. Instead, he stands at attention and raises his hand in a crisp military salute. Private First Class William Chen. On behalf of a grateful nation that should have done this 70 years ago, thank you for your service. Thank you for your sacrifice. And thank you for keeping faith with your fallen brothers when everyone else moved on. The entire courtroom erupts in spontaneous applause. Bill stands at attention, tears streaming down his weathered face, returning the salute with a hand that suddenly seems steadier and stronger. But Judge Caprio isn't finished. Regarding your jaywalking citation, dismissed completely. Furthermore, I'm making it my personal mission to help you complete your work. He turns to his bailiff. Contact every veteran organization in New England. Contact the Department of Defense. Contact anyone who can help us find the remaining 44 families. Bill Chen has carried this burden alone for 70 years. It's time we helped him complete his mission. The bailiff nods, already pulling out his phone. Judge Caprio continues, his voice growing stronger. Bill, I am also contacting Providence Housing Authority personally. You're a war hero who has honored your fallen comrades for 7 decades. The fact that you're homeless is a disgrace that ends today. Bill looks overwhelmed. Your Honor, I don't need special treatment. I just want to finish what I promised. Bill, you've been giving special treatment to 127 fallen soldiers and their families for 70 years. You've sacrificed your own comfort, your own security, to keep faith with men who died before most people in this courtroom were even born. Now it's our turn to honor you. Judge Caprio addresses the courtroom. Ladies and gentlemen, what you've witnessed today is the truest form of patriotism. Not flag-waving or speeches, but one man keeping faith with his brothers for 7 decades, through poverty, through homelessness, through a world that forgot the war he fought. He looks back at Bill. The Korean War is called the Forgotten War, but you refuse to forget. You refuse to let 127 men disappear into history. That's not just patriotism, that's love. That's brotherhood. That's everything our country should aspire to be. But then something unexpected happens. A woman in the back of the courtroom stands up. She's in her 70s, professionally dressed, visibly shaking. Excuse me, Your Honor? Judge Caprio looks surprised but nods for her to continue. My father was James Morrison from Iowa. He died at the Chosin Reservoir. We never got his dog tags. We never knew what happened to him. My mother died 15 years ago, still wondering if he'd thought about us at the end. The courtroom collectively holds its breath. Bill's head snaps up. His hands move frantically through the box until he finds what he's looking for. He pulls out a set of dog tags wrapped in faded tissue paper. Your father, Bill's voice shakes. James Morrison. He talked about you all the time. He called you Jenny. He had a picture of you as a little girl holding a stuffed rabbit. The woman gasps. That was my 5th birthday picture. He left for Korea 2 months after that photo was taken. Bill walks toward her, moving faster than his 93 years should allow. He wanted you to know that he loved you so much. That thinking about you kept him warm, even when his body was freezing. That the last thing he said was your name. He places the dog tags in her trembling hands. The woman collapses into her seat, clutching the dog tags to her chest, sobbing. Bill kneels beside her, a 93-year-old man. His body creaking with a jand, tells her everything he remembers about her father. Judge Caprio wipes tears from his eyes. The bailiff has stopped pretending to work and is openly crying. The court reporter's hands have stilled on her keyboard, but the miracles aren't finished. Another person stands, then another. Over the next 20 minutes, 3 more family members identify themselves. One woman's uncle. One man's great uncle. One elderly man's brother. Each time, Bill produces dog tags, photographs, and memories. Each reunion becomes its own sacred ceremony. 70 years of separation, ending in moments of profound connection. Judge Caprio watches in awe as his courtroom transforms from a place of legal proceedings into a place of healing. He realizes he's not presiding over a jaywalking case anymore. He's witnessing something unprecedented. The completion of a mission that began in frozen Korean mountains 70 decades ago. When the reunions finally conclude, Judge Caprio makes an announcement. This courtroom session is being recorded and will be released to news organizations across the country. Bill Chun's mission is going to have the support it deserves. Every major news network, every veteran organization, every person who cares about honoring our soldiers, they're going to know about this. He looks directly at Bill. You've spent 70 years working alone. You're not alone anymore. Within 24 hours of the video's release, Judge Caprio's courtroom is flooded with responses. The Department of Defense assigns a specialized team to help locate the remaining families. Major General Patricia Richardson personally calls Judge Caprio. Your Honor, what Bill Chen has done is extraordinary. We're committing full resources to help him find every remaining family. Veteran organizations mobilize nationwide. The veterans of foreign wars establish a dedicated hotline. Genealogists volunteer thousands of hours. A retired postal worker in Alabama provides a crucial lead after seeing the news coverage. The Providence Housing Authority fast-tracks Bill into veteran housing within 2 weeks. Bill moves into a renovated apartment for elderly veterans. A local furniture store, owned by a Vietnam veteran named Tom Murphy, donates everything personally. Mr. Chen, Tom says, his voice thick with emotion. My father served in Korea, but never talked about it. Seeing what you've done helps me understand what he carried. A grocery store provides monthly food support worth $500. A local bank establishes the William Chen Mission Fund with $50,000 from anonymous donors. Medical providers offer free health care. An optometrist gives him new glasses. But Bill remains laser-focused on his mission. Every day that passes is another day those families don't have closure, he tells Judge Caprio during a courthouse visit. Judge Caprio arranges for the courtroom's conference room to become Bill's headquarters 3 days a week. Volunteers gather to help with the search. The process is painstaking. Families have moved, married, changed names, scattered across continents. Records have been lost to fires, floods, and bureaucratic chaos. But slowly, steadily, breakthrough after breakthrough occurs. The 84th family is located in Oregon. The soldier's nephew, Stephen Park, now 71, had spent his entire life wondering about the uncle he never met. When Bill calls him, Stephen's voice shakes uncontrollably. My grandmother died 5 years ago, still asking about her son. She never knew what happened, never got his dog tags, never got closure. 2 weeks later, Bill travels to Oregon, his first flight in over 50 years. Judge Caprio arranges first-class accommodations. At Portland International Airport, 3 generations gather, waiting nervously at the gate. When Bill emerges, walking carefully but with unmistakable dignity, Stephen breaks down completely. Bill produces Corporal Andrew Park's dog tags, killed at Pork Chop Hill in 1953. But he also brings letters Andrew had written to his mother, but never mailed. Photographs with his unit, and a detailed account of his final days. Your Uncle Bill, tells Stephen, his voice steady and clear, was the bravest man I ever knew. He saved 12 men the day he died. He charged a machine gun position alone to give the rest of us time to retreat. His last words were about his mother's cooking and how desperately he missed home. Stephen clutches the dog tags as if they're made of pure light. For 70 years, our family had this gaping hole. We knew Uncle Andrew died in Korea, but we never knew how. Never knew if he suffered. Never knew if he thought about us at the end. You've given us all of that. You've given us peace we thought was impossible. That night, local Portland news runs the emotional reunion. By morning, it's picked up nationally. CNN features it on their evening broadcast. The New York Times runs a front-page feature. The Washington Post publishes a long-form piece tracking Bill's 7-decade mission. The publicity creates an unexpected tsunami of support. People with no connection to the remaining families start searching anyway. It becomes a genuine national mission. Reddit threads dedicated to finding the families gain hundreds of thousands of active participants. A 22-year-old college student in Chicago, working on her grandmother's genealogy, finds a connection leading to Michigan. Within 6 months, 37 more families are located through this grassroots network. Judge Caprio attends as many reunions as possible, witnessing profound healing in real time. At the 100th reunion held in a small Iowa church, Bill breaks down completely. I never thought I'd live to see this day. I thought I'd die with dog tags still unreturned, promises still unkept. But we're almost there. We're almost done. Judge Caprio places his hand on Bill's shoulder. Bill, You didn't just keep a promise to your fallen brothers. You kept a promise to yourself that you would never abandon them, no matter how long it took, no matter what it cost. The search for the final 7 families intensifies dramatically. These are the hardest cases: soldiers whose families have scattered most completely, whose military records are most incomplete, whose trails have grown coldest over 7 decades. But the volunteer network, now thousands strong, refuses to quit. A breakthrough comes from Florida. A woman in her 80s living in a nursing home sees a news report and recognizes a name: her high school classmate's older brother. She remembers the family's 1953 address. The address no longer exists, demolished in the 1970s for urban renewal. But genealogists trace the family through census records and church registries. They find a daughter in Arizona, a woman in her 70s, who spent her entire life with only the vaguest memories of her father. Bill travels to meet her personally. Your father carried your picture in his helmet. You were holding a teddy bear on your 3rd birthday? Margaret holds the photograph with violently shaking hands. I still have that bear. It's been on my bed for 70 years. Bill shares every memory: jokes her father told, songs he sang, dreams he had for her future. When he gives her the dog tags, she presses them to her heart. I've been incomplete my entire life. There was always this hole, this missing piece. You finally made me whole. Judge Caprio, present for this reunion, calls a press conference in Phoenix the next morning. Bill Chen has taught me that true justice transcends time, geography, and even death itself, he announces. He establishes the William Chen Foundation to help veterans complete missions of honor, funded by donations pouring in nationwide. I'm 88 years old. Bill is 94. We're going to use whatever time we have left to find the remaining families. This mission will be completed. Within days, 3 more families are found. That leaves 3 soldiers, 3 sets of dog tags, 3 promises unkept. Bill, now 95, works with intensified urgency. Every morning, he sits at his desk with the ammunition box beside him. I made a promise to 127 men, tells Judge Caprio, not to 124. Until all 127 are home, I can't rest. The forgotten soldiers of the forgotten war are forgotten no more. Bill Chen moves into a small but comfortable apartment. For the first time in 12 years, he has a permanent address. But even more meaningful is a purpose that's recognized and supported. On the 1-year anniversary of his appearance in Judge Caprio's courtroom, Bill returns not as a defendant, but as an honored guest. He carries his metal box. But now it contains only 7 sets of dog tags, 7 soldiers whose families still haven't been found. We're not stopping, Judge Caprio tells him. We're going to find every single one. Bill Chen, 94 years old now, stands straighter than he has in years. Your Honor, when I made that promise at the Chosen Reservoir in 1950, I never imagined it would take this long. I never imagined I'd live long enough to see it completed. But thanks to you, thanks to everyone who helped, my brothers are finally going home. Judge Caprio places his hand on Bill's shoulder. Bill, you taught us something invaluable. You showed us that a promise made in wartime doesn't expire when peace comes. That brotherhood doesn't end with death. That one person, armed with nothing but determination and love, can refuse to let heroes be forgotten. The Korean War lasted 3 years. Bill Chen's mission to honor its fallen lasted 70. But on that day in Judge Caprio's courtroom, the world finally bore witness to what one soldier's promise could achieve. The 7 remaining dog tags were found within another year. The last reunion took place at the Korean War Memorial in Washington, D.C. Bill Chen, at 95 years old, placed the final set of dog tags into the hands of an 80-year-old daughter who had spent her entire life wondering about the father she never got to know. Mission complete, Bill said quietly. His hands still raised in salute. Judge Frank Caprio was there, along with representatives from the Department of Defense, dozens of veteran organizations, and over 100 family members of the soldiers Bill had honored. As Bill lowered his salute, Judge Caprio stepped forward. Bill, you taught us something invaluable. You showed us what it means to be truly human. To keep faith across decades. To honor the dead by serving the living. To carry out a promise, even when it costs you everything. Bill Chen died peacefully in his sleep 2 months later at age 95. His funeral was attended by over 2,000 people, representatives from all branches of military service. Families of the 127 soldiers whose dog tags he'd returned, and Judge Caprio, who delivered a eulogy that made hardened soldiers weep. Bill Chen was cited for jaywalking. He came to court expecting a fine. Instead, he gave us the greatest lesson any courtroom has ever witnessed. He showed us that justice isn't just about laws and penalties. It's about recognizing sacred missions and honoring those who carry them out. The metal ammunition box that Bill had protected for 70 years was placed in the Korean War Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C. Inside is a note in Bill's handwriting. "These men trusted me with their final messages. I promised to bring them home. I kept my word." Judge Caprio keeps a photograph on his desk, Bill Chen standing at attention in his courtroom, his hand raised in salute, tears streaming down his face. Finally receiving the recognition he never sought for himself. Beneath the photo is a quote Judge Caprio shares with everyone who asks about that day. "Bill Chen taught me that we measure a life not by what we achieve for ourselves, but by the promises we keep for others." If Bill Chen's story has touched your heart, if you believe in honoring those who refuse to let heroes be forgotten, share this video. Like this video if you believe every veteran deserves recognition, regardless of how much time has passed. Subscribe for more stories that prove compassion and commitment can change the world. And in the comments, tell us about someone in your life who kept a promise no matter how long it took. Judge Caprio showed us that a courtroom can be a place of healing. Bill Chen showed us that a promise made in wartime can last a lifetime. Remember, the Korean War is called the Forgotten War, but Bill Chen refused to forget. And now, neither will we.